All right, today we are diving into something that's a real game changer for cloud activity logging, AWS CloudTrail Lake. If you've ever had to sift through just mountains of logs for a security audit or, during an incident, you know the pain. So we're going to explore how CloudTrail Lake transforms all that chaotic data into a seriously powerful, searchable library.
So, does this sound familiar? You've got an incident on your hands and you're stuck clicking through different accounts, different regions, trying to stitch together what actually happened from all these scattered logs. It's a common headache, for sure, and it is the exact problem that CloudTrail Lake was designed to solve.
To really get why this is such a big deal, just look at this comparison. With the traditional CloudTrail event history, you get 90 days of logs, the searches are pretty basic, and you're stuck in one account and one region at a time. Then you look at CloudTrail Lake. It just blows that out of the water. We're talking up to 10 years of retention, advanced SQL queries across your entire organization, and you can even pull in data from outside of AWS. It's a whole different league.
So to really appreciate the new way, let's just quickly break down the pain points of the old way of handling CloudTrail logs.
These limitations are a really big deal. Just imagine you're trying to track an attacker who's moving between different accounts and regions. With the old method, it is a painstaking manual process. And what if the attack happened more than 90 days ago? Well, that data is just gone. It makes long-term auditing a complete nightmare.
And now for the solution. AWS really stepped back and reimagined what a cloud auditing tool could be, and that led directly to the creation of CloudTrail Lake.
At its core, CloudTrail Lake is a purpose-built, managed data lake. Now, the keywords here are aggregate, immutably store, and SQL-based queries. It pulls everything into one place, it makes sure that data can't be tampered with, and then it gives you a super powerful language to ask it really complex questions.
Okay, so what's the magic behind the speed? This is what's so cool. CloudTrail Lake takes your standard JSON logs and completely reformats them into Apache ORC, which is a columnar format. The best way to think about it is like reorganizing a messy library. Instead of a random pile of books, everything is on perfectly sorted shelves. It makes finding exactly what you need incredibly fast.
So how does this whole central library idea actually work? Well, it all revolves around a core concept called the Event Data Store. An Event Data Store is your main building block. You can think of it as a specific, secure collection inside your library. You get to decide exactly what goes into it. Maybe you create one for security events, another for operational data, and here's the key. Once an event is written, it can't be changed.
And this table perfectly illustrates just how powerful this is. You're not just collecting standard CloudTrail events. You can pull in CloudTrail insights to spot anomalies, grab configuration snapshots from AWS config, and, this is a huge one, you can even ingest events from your on-premise servers or other SaaS applications. Now let's talk about retention. With the extendable option, you can store your data for up to 3,653 days. That is a full decade of immutable, searchable logs. For anyone who has to deal with long-term compliance like PCI DSS or HIPAA, this is an absolute game changer.
So the crucial point is that these data stores are built from the ground up for trust and for scale. Immutability guarantees your data integrity for audits. The multi-account and multi-region capability gives you that single pane of glass you've always wanted. And of course, everything is encrypted by default, so your sensitive log data is secure from the get-go. Okay, so we've got all this data pulled together in one place. Now for the fun part. How do we actually use it to find what we're looking for?
This quote really hits the nail on the head. You're no longer just filtering by a username or an event name. You are performing deep database-style analysis to find patterns, correlate events, and really find that needle in the haystack.
And you do all this with a language that tons of engineers and analysts already know, SQL. Just look at this example. It's a clean, readable query to find all EC2 API calls that happened after a certain date. This is just infinitely more powerful and flexible than the old key value search.
And hey, if you don't want to write SQL from scratch, that's totally fine. CloudTrail gives you 14 managed dashboards right out of the box. These give you instant visualizations for common things, like tracking top users or spotting frequent errors, and you don't have to write a single line of code.
But for your more specific needs, you can build your own dashboards. Each little widget on the dashboard is powered by a custom SQL query that you write. This is so powerful because it lets you create a tailor-made view for your security team or your DevOps team, focusing only on the metrics that matter to you.
There's also something called a highlights dashboard, which is kind of like an intelligent assistant. It automatically surfaces weird or unusual activity, like a sudden spike in cross-account access, pointing you toward potential security issues before they become major problems.
And remember how we talked about bringing in non-AWS data? This is how simple it is. Seriously, it's a 3-step process. You create a data store, you set up a channel to receive the data, and then your application uses a simple API call to send its events in. Just like that, your on-premise logs are sitting right next to your AWS logs, ready to be queried together.
So, let's bring this all home. We've seen what it is, we've seen how it works, but why should this really be on your radar?
Ultimately, CloudTrail Lake just fundamentally changes your relationship with your logs. Security investigations get faster and way more thorough, compliance gets way simpler with long-term, unchangeable storage, troubleshooting gets easier because you can see the whole picture, and you finally get that single source of truth for audit data across your entire tech stack. By turning your logs from just a passive record into an active, queryable database, CloudTrail Lake empowers you to ask questions you just couldn't before. It kind of leaves us with one final thought. With this kind of power at your fingertips, what critical insights are hiding unanswered in your logs right now?